Fawcett and other family and friends, and definitely to our attorney Hardy. You enjoying your birthday and hope you have many more healthy, joyful, and prosperous birthdays to come. What's on my mind today is so many people take death or the passing of loved ones very, very seriously. Life is very precious and dying is inevitable to everyone, but to die young is sad, and to be killed or murdered, a terrific horror. Let's not take it so like it's normal and talk about how the person lived, opposed to what should be the conscience of the killer. Number two, COVID-19 is not over, said and done. There are people still sick and children, babies getting it, and in the hospitals across the country, New York, New Jersey, everywhere. Go and see for yourself. Life is precious. First cure is prevention. Let's do our part to avoid more COVID. And at this time, we have not seen the voting rights bill pass or the John Lewis or the George Floyd bill. But remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, or advocacy is not a sprint. It is a marathon to those who endure to the end, from slaves to the White House. So finally, as we advocate in love and peace and power, let's not forget the other accomplishments we have made. Please remember the song spearheaded by the great Harry Belafonte years ago on the Haitian issues. We are the world. Don't just sing the song. Blessings to you all. We are anchored in the Lord. No justice, no peace. And that comes from our very dear member, Fawcett. And that concludes another weekend's conversation of What's on Your Mind. In mind, everything that you heard here was simply the thoughts and the viewpoints of the contributors and do not reflect those of the National Action Network directly. And you can interact with us 24 hours a day by emailing us at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. Again, that email address is whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net, or you may call us at 877-626-4651. Back to you, Attorney Hardy.
All right, Katrina Jefferson, thank you so much for What's on Your Mind. Brothers and sisters, we're going to bring you in the house. And what is that? That's when we come in and talk about the work of the committees here at National Action Network and the work that they do. And there's none other that is as active and as enjoyable as arts and culture. And so Arnold Penix, chairperson, is going to bring us in the house.
Greetings, Nan family. This is Arnold Penix, a.k.a. A. Gregory Harris, a.k.a. Blacker than black can be, blackety black, the big black man. Black people, it's hot fun in the summertime. It's time to get outrageous with justice, because if there's no justice, there can be no peace. This is the Nan Arts and Culture Summer Report. In Nan Arts News, Nan performing activists Lorenzo Vaughn, Camille Worrell, and A. Gregory Harris took to the red carpet for Revend Sharpton's film Loudmouth at the Tribeca Film Festival. I spoke with executive producer John Legend at the after party, which was outrageous. We were loud and proud for our loud mouth. I wasn't too loud because I was busy stuffing my loud mouth with food. In other Nan news, Nan Arts and Culture celebration of Juneteenth at the House of Justice showcased Nan performing activist Dominic Sharpton and the cast of I Look to You, the Gospel of Whitney Houston. Nan Righteous Troublemakers, Reverend Word, Jeffrey Burton, and Reverend McClinton make their Nan performing activist debut in this production. Whitney, played by Stefania Milan, sang The Greatest Love of All, which is the message of this must-see musical play. Next performing activist, this performance is free to the public at the Harlem Center, 228 East 125th Street on Sunday, July 24th at 2:30 p.m. All NAM members are encouraged to try out to be God men and God women as part of our jury selection. In other Nan Arts news, Nan Talented Teen Summer Showcase was launched during the NAN Youth Huddle Archivism segment on Monday, July 11th, 2022. 16-year-old talented teen Jasmine Bell sang a song from the Garvey Studios Talent Development Tuesday workshop of the New Orleans jazz musical Les Terrestres, which is being presented in October in celebration of Revend Sharpton's birthday. All talented teams are invited to the NAN Huddle to be added to the summer showcase lineup. And in closing, NAN Arts is seeking historical figures to portray Black stars and African storytellers for children 6 to 12 years of age. In Garvey, Land of Black Stars, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Marcus Garvey Park this summer, Monday through Friday. The Black Star lineup will include Rosa Parks, MLK Jr., Malcolm X, Adam Clayton Powell, Jr., Al Sharpton, Michael Jackson, James Brown, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and other entertainers, lookalikes, to walk throughout the park as Black stars, educating our future generations by telling our story. Garvey Day, August 17th, is the opening of this community theme park attraction. You can pick up a Garvey land map right here at the House of Justice. Become a part of the arts action. Visit Black to the Future at blk2.com. That's blk2.com. Well, that's the NAN Arts News. Express yourself artistically and have a wonderfully outrageous summer. Back to you, Attorney Hardy.
All right. Dr. Arnold Penix. Getting my Alvins and Arnolds mixed up there. It's probably a little arts and culture in there. Anyway, brothers and sisters, right now, though, there's no mix-up there because it's Sunday. Our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson.
Oh, Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. You set your glory above the heavens and the earth. When I think of all you made, the sun, the moon, and the stars, no praise is high enough to express how great you are. What a mighty God we serve. Mighty God we serve. Angels bow before the mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Mighty God we serve. Let heaven and earth adore the mighty God we serve. Oh Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. You set your glory above the heavens and the earth. And I think of all you made, the sun, the moon, and the stars. No praise is high enough to express
is our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, accompanied by Chris Garland. Brothers and sisters, Dawn Jones is head of our Political Action Committee, and we know we're in a strange political year because we got two sets of primaries. We just passed one coming up on June 28th, and then we have August. And Dawn Jones is going to come and tell us about what's coming up in August.
Greetings, House of Justice, and happy Saturday. I greet you with the joy of Jesus. This is the day that the Lord has made, and let us rejoice and be glad in it. We thank our fearless leader, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, for his dynamic leadership. The 2022 New York August primary on the ballot is Congress, United States House of Representatives, and State Senate. Early voting is August 13th through the 21st, and Election Day will be on a separate day, Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. The deadline to register to vote in person for the general election is October 14th. In order to register to vote in the city, you must be a resident for the last month, at least 18 years of age, have citizenship, and not be in prison or on parole for a felony conviction. Voter registration forms must be postmarked 29 days in advance. The general election is being held on November 8th, 2022. A huge thing to keep in mind when heading to the polls multiple times this year is that redistricting might have moved around who you can vote for in the Congress, State Senate, and State Assembly. If you're not sure where you fall on the new redistricting maps for your neighborhood, check out voteny.page/NYC-district maps, or go to find your poll site in hours. Vote.nyc or call 866-VOTE-NYC. Find my polling site, that is findmypollsite.vote.nyc/ to find your polling place. Our committee meetings are normally held on the fourth Saturday right here at the House of Justice. The National Action Network Political Action Committee has helped to win a number of key legislative political victories that have benefited New York members, is one of the reasons why you should join our committee. You can contact NANPAC at 212-690-3070, or I can be reached at 212-281-3518 for more information on how to join our committee. I would like to offer condolences to the family of Valerie Wilson, a faithful National Action Network Women Auxiliary member who transitioned on last week. Goldie and I and others attended her service on yesterday. It was a beautiful service, and I want to send sympathy to the family. And our sister Aisha Wilson did a beautiful tribute to her mom. May she rest in peace. And on another note, the MTA and elected officials have removed the bus stop from 145th Street and Convent Avenue. And we're just asking that they reinstate the BX19 bus at 145th Street and Convent Avenue in Manhattan now. This affects a lot of our seniors who are on walkers, wheelchairs, as well as there's a senior center there. I've been a member of Convent Avenue Baptist Church for over 31 years, and we are outraged that the MTA has chosen to move that bus stop. It would definitely hinder a lot of our members getting to church as well as to the senior center. I have a petition here that I would ask that any of our members of the National Action Network would be in support of us. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you on this morning. We wish you peace, justice, and blessings.
All right. Once again, brothers and sisters, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson.
Exceedingly, abundantly, above all you could ask or think, according to the power
Once again, that is our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, accompanied by Chris Garland. Brothers and sisters, it is our privilege today because our dear sister Katrina Jefferson is back because there's still things on people's minds.
Yes, yes, you all are in for a lucky treat. This is round 2 of What's on Your Mind this fantastic Saturday here at the House of Justice. Coming from our very own Rodney Jones, and this is the subject of the Black Catholic community of the Archdiocese of New York. So he brings us history facts each week, and we have 2 that we're going to hear about today. Established in 1976, the Office of Black Ministry was created to address some of the unique spiritual, cultural, and social needs of African American, African, and Caribbean American Catholics, as well as the larger Black community. The Black Catholic community has been an integral part of the Archdiocese of New York for over 200 years. They include priests, deacons, religious brothers and sisters, and laymen and women, married and single. They even include one of the only 3 congregations of predominantly Black religious sisters in the country, the Franciscan Handmaids of the Most Pure Heart of Mary, with their mother house located in the heart of Harlem. Some of them are native New Yorkers, while others have come from the various parts of the United States, the Caribbean, Central and South America, the continent of Africa, and the rest of the world. They speak various languages, including English, French, Creole, Spanish, Akan, Ga, Ewe, Nzima, Portuguese, Igbo, Garifuna, and Tirrenia, to name only a few. Their congregants love their God, our church, and our families. We stand for life and justice and against violence, racism, and all forms of injustice. They value peace, education, and in a very special way, the young and elderly. On a personal note, Rodney Jones was baptized and confirmed in the Archdiocese of Brooklyn and Queens. He graduated from St. May's Roman Catholic School in Long Island City, Queens, and he currently attends St. Rita's Roman Catholic Church in Long Island City, Queens. No justice, no peace, and that's coming from Rodney Jones. The second thing we're going to share, which is so appropriate considering what's in the news happening with Brittany Griner, and this is a history of the WNBA. The Women's National Basketball Association, otherwise known as the WNBA, is a professional basketball league in the United States. It is currently composed of 12 teams. The league was founded on April 22, 1996 as a women's counterpart to the National Basketball Association, and league play started in 1997. The regular season is played from May to September, with the All-Star game being played midway through the season in July, except in Olympic years, and the WNBA Finals at the end of September until the beginning of October. 5 WNBA teams have direct NBA counterparts and normally play in the same arena. They are the Indiana Fever, Los Angeles Sparks, Minnesota Lynx, New York Liberty, and Phoenix Mercury. The Atlanta Dream, Chicago Sky, Connecticut Sun, Dallas Wings, Las Vegas Aces, Seattle Storm, and Washington Mystics do not share an arena with a direct NBA counterpart, although 4 of the 7, the Dream, the Sky, the Wings, and the Mystics, share a market with an NBA counterpart. 2, Mystics and Dream, play in NBA G League arenas, while the Storm shared an arena and market with an NBA team, the Supersonics, at the time of its founding. The average salary of an NBA player is $7.7 million. In the WNBA, it's closer to $75,000. So the female athletes are making about 1% of the salaries of their male counterparts. No justice, no peace. That's coming from our very own Rodney Jones of Queensbridge Houses with our history facts for the week. And that concludes this weekend's conversation, the double duo of What's on Your Mind. Keep in mind everything you heard here were the thoughts and the viewpoints of the contributors and do not reflect those of the National Action Network directly. And you may interact with us 24 hours a day by emailing us at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. Again, that email address is whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net, or you may call us at 877-626-4651. Back to you, Attorney Hardy.
All right. Thank you, Katrina Jefferson. Brothers and sisters, it is indeed our honor and privilege today to have with us for our inspirational word, Pastor Kareem Kamara, Senior Pastor of Abundant Life Church in the great borough of Brooklyn. Let's give him a great welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So what a blessing and pleasure to be here. The National Action Network, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And I go into the time that I have. I could not be before you without thanking God for the leadership of Revend Dr. Al Sharpton, President and founder of National Action Network. Let's thank God for him, for his leadership. And I know we'll be blessed to hear from him again over the years, both as an elected official and as a pastor. I've gone to him for counsel, whether it was ministry, whether it was something justice related. He always makes himself available for the people to make sure that justice is being heard in our community. And also in his absence for Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, chairman of the board of the National Action Network. When I had led the governor's office of faith-based community development services, and the governor appointed me, the announcement was at the historic Grace Baptist Church. And I think it's fitting that the first state office that was dealing with community development across the state, former Governor Cuomo, the time he decided Grace Baptist Church, because you can't talk about community development, outreach, ministry without talking about Grace Baptist Church and the chairman of the National Action Network Board, Dr. W. Franklin Richardson. As I go right to my message today, I know somebody said, come on, preacher, you're on a time limit. You got to get to the message, get to the message. And when I was coming here today, my family, we're a one-car family, and the kids had sporting events, and I said, well, you know what, I'm from Brooklyn, but I know Harlem. I'm from New York City. I'm not taking an Uber to Harlem. I'm gonna take the train to Harlem. And I took the train to Harlem. I know how to get to Harlem. My father's from Harlem. I know how to get there. And I'm on the train, I'm waiting. All of a sudden I look up and I'm going over my notes on the train. I look up and it says 149th Grand Concourse. And I said, I didn't want to take an Uber, but now at this point I got to take an Uber to make sure I get over there. And so y'all pray for me on my way home that I don't get lost, all right? But as we go to Philippians 3:12 to 14, the New International Version, it says, not that I have already obtained all this or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold for that which Christ Jesus took hold of. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, and this is the key verse right here, forgetting what is behind and straining,
New York City firefighter for his outstanding courage.
I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. And for just these few minutes, I offer to you this title, Forget the Past. Keep pushing forward. Can you do me a favor and just tell somebody next to you, forget the past. Tell somebody else, keep pushing forward. That's really, if my time elapsed, that's really the message right there that I offered to somebody, and I think we could all meditate on that in our personal life, that we have to find a way, if we're going to reach our potential, if we're going to move forward in our spiritual growth, we've got to find a way to forget the past and keep pushing forward. And in this scripture here, really, in order to lead our best life and fulfill the potential God has given us, we have to learn to forget the past. We can acknowledge the past, we can learn from the past, but we can't live in the past. And so many of us, I remember grandma, mama, people say stuck on stupid, because we have so many things in the past that we can't change, and we're stuck in the same spot because we just can't let it go. Now, listen here, I don't mean to minimize the fact that people have dealt with trauma in their life and the things we have to get over, and we might need counseling, we might need therapy, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm talking to somebody that needs to decide what things they need help with, what things they just need to let go. And so many of us are holding on to things. The thing about it is that when we hold on to so much stuff, we're not releasing it. There's no room for the things that God wants us to have in our life. You've got to release some things in order to gain some things. And to release those things we need to release, we're not going to open ourselves to the blessing that God has for us in the present. You can't live in the past, in the present, and the future at the same time. We've got to live in the present and praying that God continue to bless us for our future. I hope somebody hears that. Now, Paul here, who wrote the message, he did not forget the past entirely. He never seems to have forgotten where he came from. He remembered what others had done for him. But by the same time, he did not live in the past. He did not allow his past failures or his past victories to keep him from pursuing his goal. And both of those can be a major impediment if we do not follow and look ahead towards the future instead of the past. Past failures can be discouraging. If we try and we fail, if we've made mistakes, if we've been hurt, especially if we've made the same mistake over and over again, it can become easy to believe that success is out of our reach, that we're doomed to always fail. And I know it's hard to admit that, but we can admit it to ourselves in our private thoughts at times. In some endeavor, we wondered quietly, can I be successful in this? We prayed, Lord, I need a sign that you're with me, that you're blessing me in the middle of this opportunity. The areas in our life that we struggle with, that's real, that's humanity. And we fall short. We're human. So many of us ask the question, will we ever reach victory? And sometimes it's tempting just to give up. I suspect everyone, we'd like to succeed. So as we go to this message from Paul, there are two things we have to learn to do. We have to learn to forget the pain of our yesterdays, our defeats, and we also have to learn not to dwell too much on our victories, because we get a false sense if we dwell only on our victories, then we're not really open to what God is continuing to do in our life. But when it comes to our defeat, we have to learn how to forget our injuries, our wounds. Let God heal us of the hurts, the trauma of our past. We have to learn, and this may be the hardest thing even for spiritual folk, we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. We have to learn how to forgive others. And we talk all that spirituality, but when someone says, will you forgive them? Not me, not in this lifetime. We have to learn how to, it's key. Not only do we have to learn how to forgive other people, but we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. Because so many of us are still bitter with ourselves. We're hurting ourselves in our own progress because we can't forgive ourselves for our mistakes. And look who wrote these words. Paul was imprisoned. Paul and his former killed Christians. He was a persecutor of Christians. And now here he is, the chief apostle of the church. If he can move forward from that life, forward in our life. When it comes to our victories, we must forsake our successes. We can't live on yesterday's victories. God gave Israel daily manna. Each day he gave them the portion they needed for that day. We need daily bread. We need to be fed. We need to hear God's word. We need to be fed by the Spirit. Each day we need to hear a new promise, a new dream, a new hope in our hearts. We can't live off yesterday's blessings or just yesterday's strengths. The good old days are today. We have to live one day at a time and focus on what God is doing. Now, here's what he's saying. He says, I'm straining towards what is ahead. This phrase is the picture of a runner straining to reach the finish line. pressing on towards the goal. And forgetting his past, Paul chose to turn his attention to what was to come. I don't believe that he was referring to his upcoming itinerary, his ministry journeys. He's talking about in his life, about what God had planned for him. God had called him to do something, and his focus was fixed on that. Is anybody's focus fixed on what God wants you to do in your life? There's nothing like that, having your focus fixed on what God. What I found out is when you're fixed on what God called you to do, what God is saying about your life, you're not concerned about what other people are saying about your life. When you fix your eyes on what God has called you to do. His energy was devoted not to making a name for himself. He wasn't preparing for retirement. He wasn't just trying to be successful for his own, but rather he wanted to win the prize that God had set before him. And he was not going to let anything get in the way of that, either his past or his present. And what was this prize? Toward the end of his life, Paul looked back on the years of his service to the Lord. He had no regrets, even expressing confidence that a crown waited for him. When we look, and my prayers of all of us, we're going to be here on this earth for a long time. But when we look for that moment when we're at the twilight of our life, will we look and say, I left it all here. I used all my gifts. Everything God called me to do, I did my best to fulfill the calling in every manner. We've got justice warriors here. I know that people that are called to women, to children, to the formerly incarcerated, to those who are incarcerated. You're warriors. You know what I'm talking about. Put your all on the line for somebody else. So I just came here to tell somebody, keep being obedient to the call, because God is looking down upon you and he doesn't want you to tire out. Because if you tire out, there's somebody that's not being fulfilled by the ministry that God called you as part of. And just really embrace this idea that God is using us. Paul said, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. We're overloaded, we're overbooked, we're overcommitted, we're overwhelmed. We're tired of trying to do too much, or we think we're doing too little. But just listen here as I close. The prize that we're fulfilled with is whatever God called us to. That prize, we all have a different prize. What is the one thing that you need to stop doing so you can do more of what God is calling you to do? How can we make more room for God and his blessings in our life? And all of us, we don't have to compete. You have your own track, your own lane. The key thing is, what is your goal? Paul used many illustrations. He used the military. He talked about putting on the whole armor of God. He used architecture, talked about the temple of God, agriculture. What a person sows, they shall also reap. But what I find most insightful here in this scripture, when he's talking about pressing on that I read earlier, is Paul's use of the chariot. The chariot. It's a small platform with a wheel on each side. The driver had very little to hold on to as he headed around the course. He had to lean forward and strain with every nerve and muscle to maintain balance and control. And so the reason why he had to look forward, because the balance was so precarious with one wheel on each side, that if he didn't keep looking forward, if he turned, horse and chariot could fall. Oh boy, that's something for somebody. If we want to keep on track to what God is calling us to, we have to make sure that we keep our eyes forward, that we don't keep looking past. We've got to make sure that whatever your calling is, fulfill your calling. Don't try to be somebody else. You know, over the years, in my years of the assembly and pastoring, I had so many people that came, oh, I'm going to be the next Revend Sharpton. I'm the next great activist. Guess what? They activated for about 5 minutes and I haven't seen them since. Because they didn't realize how hard the struggle is. They didn't realize the lost hours and the travel and the sacrifice and the time away from your family. When you got a calling, people don't realize the sacrifice that you have to make. Let people hate on you and be jealous. You just keep doing what God called you to do. Because guess what? They may try to take you out, but they'll try for 5 minutes and disappear like those activists that came out of nowhere and disappeared into nowhere. Do what God called you to do, because guess what? No matter who tries to compete with you, you're the number one in what God called you to do. Nobody can outdo what he called you to do. I hope that's a blessing to somebody. No justice, no peace. Keep living the calling that God called you to do. Keep being a blessing. Keep looking forward to whatever that calling is in your life. God bless you. Amen.
All right, we want to thank our dear brother and Pastor Kareem Kamara, Senior Pastor, Abundant Life Church in Brooklyn, for our inspirational word. Once again, it's Saturday. Our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson.
Lord, help me to hold down. Oh Lord, help me to hold down. Oh Lord, help me to hold down. Oh, until my change has come. Lord, help me to hold down. Oh, Lord, oh, help me to hold down. Oh, Lord, help me to hold down.
That's our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. Brothers and sisters, I want you to get on your feet. If you're at home, I want you to put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 If the person next to you, tell them you love them. In the 1930s and 40s, while segregation was the law of the land in many states, there was one black woman from Florida that was able to rise above the sociology of the day and teach people and educate people and mold people of our own race, named Mary McLeod Bethune. Mary McLeod Bethune refused to listen to what was considered normal. She did what was abnormal, and that is normalize black excellence. She became the first black to become an advisor to a president, sit up in the White House and advise Roosevelt because of Eleanor Roosevelt. Well, many felt that she had passed before she could see the walls of segregation fall. And she was not around for the March on Washington in '63, and she wasn't around for the Civil Rights Act of '64, and she wasn't around for the Voting Rights Act of '65. But this week, she integrated Statutory Hall in the U.S. Capitol, when for the first time, a black statue
of a black woman was put in the hall, the statuary hall, and as long as this nation stands, they will see the statue of a black woman that educated black children, even behind the walls of Jim Crow. If you hold on, even the children of your segregationists will erect a statue in your memory, and your change will come.
Your change will come. Your change. Oh, yes, it will. Your change will come. Oh, your change. Oh, change will. Oh, change will.
Several years ago, I was in Las Vegas, Nevada, speaking at a union rally. And as I got back to Las Vegas airport flying home, it was a Wednesday night. I would land Thursday morning. My cell phone rang, and Cynthia Davis, who led our NAN office in Staten Island, told me, "Reverend, the police have choked a man to death." I said, "Well, I'll be landing in a few hours. Let's talk about it." She said, "But his mother's on the phone. Can I connect her in?" And she was weeping on the phone, told me what happened to her son. And it moved me so I told her, "Will you be at the rally Saturday? And we're going out to Staten Island and fight for justice for your son." Gwen Carr and the Garner family met us here. We brought about 10 buses out to Staten Island. And we marched around the street, Bay Street, where they choked him to death. And as he said 11 times, "I can't breathe." But they compressed him and killed him. Well, today, on that same street, this afternoon, they're going to name the street Eric Garner Way. On that same street, they're going to name it after him to symbolize. But it's not only the street. It's state law now you can't use chokehold. It's state law named after Eric Garner. He may have been a victim, but he in history will be a victor because his family never stopped fighting and believed that change would come.
Your change will come. Your change.
Give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report to you that are watching and you that are here at the House of Justice on where the action is. Certainly we are happy for you that are here at the National Action Network House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the Village of Harlem. And for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, and you that are watching on our live platforms, including Impact Television all over the world, we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. Give the drummer some, Brother Chris. And certainly I want to thank my friend and brother who gave our inspiration message in the first hour, Senior Pastor of Abundant Life Church, longtime activist and official, Pastor Kareem Camara. Give Kareem a hand. As I was listening to his message, a lot of folk needed to hear that message. because we are in very precarious times. And only those that are true and understand their role in their lane, like he talked about, are going to be able to get through this. And I think, a lot of y'all like hollering and jumping up and down and humming messages. But sometimes you need a solid message to challenge you, where it's not just entertaining, but it is really and challenging. That's why some of us, some preachers preach cotton candy messages. They sweet, but taste only for a second and they gone. But you need something that'll hold you, because we're in crazy times. And you need some real substance. And what Pastor Camara gave us was real substance. And I would listen, we talked about some of those, say I'm going to be the next Al Sharpton, only last 5 seconds. But y'all can come every Saturday morning. The next Al Sharpton is already here, me. I ain't going nowhere. Don't be the next nobody. Be the first you. I was talking to one of my young ministers that calls me his father in the movement. And I was talking to him just last night, and I told him that growing up, I come out of a single-parent home, and you tend to, any of you here that grew up single-parent understand what I'm getting ready to say, you tend to emulate other men because you don't have a father at home to emulate. So you learn manhood by extension. You can talk all you want, but somebody, you got to emulate how you shave and how you do manly things. Mama can't show you that. And then as I grew, Bishop Washington was a father I would emulate. And then Reverend William Jones, and then Jesse Jackson, and on to James Brown. But I figured out as I grew that I could not be the next Bishop Washington. I couldn't do what he did. I couldn't perfect being the next Jesse Jackson, the next Bill Jones. But I could be the best Al Sharpton the world ever saw. Nobody can do me better than me. And I say that to you is nobody can do you better than you can do you if you just resolve in yourself to do and be you. I tell you every Saturday, God does not make mistakes. You are not a mistake. God intended for you to be just like you are. If you just own it and master it and use it, whatever role you play is as important as any role anybody else plays. You only mess up when you try to redo something that God already made. Everybody ain't supposed to be on the stage. You may be the one in the audience that pushes the movement, but if you didn't push it, the ones on stage wouldn't be effective. So everybody play their role. I was at the dentist a couple weeks ago doing dental work, but the dentist couldn't do nothing without reaching to the nurse, getting whatever he was going to do to go in my mouth. You need the nurse and the dentist. If the dentist had to drop what he was doing in my mouth and go get everything, I probably would have fainted by the time he come back. Play your role. God gave you a role, and your role matters. So give Pastor Camara a big hand. Also want to say that we celebrate one of our members, our faithful members, Valerie Wilson, who's been in the women's auxiliary and been faithful down through the years, made her transition, and they funeralized her on yesterday in Patterson, New Jersey. Give the legacy and memory of Valerie Wilson a big hand. Come on, I see some of the women jury standing. Valerie Wilson. Also, I want to acknowledge the passing of a true giant in our community. I got the call early yesterday morning, a man who made a real difference in the political empowerment and economic battle of empowerment in our city and in the nation. The passing of former Assemblyman, former Councilman Al Van. Al Van passed on yesterday, and I've known Al Van down through the years. And one thing, I remember Katrina, that in 1969 or 70, they opened up the Greater New York Operation Breadbasket offices in Brooklyn, and it was going to be over the Carver Federal Savings Bank, and the reason they wanted it over Carver is Breadbasket fought for economic rights. It was the economic arm of Dr. King's organization, and I was the youth director of the New York chapter. And I remember that night, Reverend Jackson and Reverend Jones and Gardner Taylor and Bishop Washington and Reverend John Scott cut the ribbon. And then we went upstairs and they had the reception. And two tall black men in African garb. And in those days, the preachers and church folk didn't wear African garb. That happened more in the 70s. But this was early. And the two guys were Al Van and G2 Ausi. And they were leading then the African American Teachers Association. And they later went into becoming who they became, political forces. And though we may have had different candidates and different feelings down through the years, we found a way that even though they came out of what was the nationalist movement, and I came out of what was the civil righters or the church-based civil righters, we found a way to always come together. And one of the ways you can tell mature people in the movement is those that can understand your differences does not mean that you have to battle each other. Your differences mean you take a different lane on the same highway. Immature want folk to be exactly like them. Mature folks say, well, I see it different, but we hit it the same way. And that's how Al Van was. I'll never forget, even though we had different political candidates, when I ran in 2004, he stepped on the steps of City Hall as a councilman and endorsed me for president, though I never supported them. That's the kind of giant he was. And there would not be the power that blacks have now. A black mayor from Brooklyn, a black state attorney general from Brooklyn. All of that had it not been for Al Van. Give Al Van a big hand. Give him a hand. And of course, in that same spirit, I want us all to continue to pray for my friend and co-chair, Choose Healthy Life, Reverend Dr. Calvin Butts. And the last 2 or 3 years, we've been working together on COVID, and he has announced he has certain illness. I want us to pray for him. We've not always agreed on tactics, but we always been brothers in the movement, and he's a valuable asset in our community. Pastor of Abyssinian Baptist Church, Dr. Calvin Butts. His father was a member of National Action Network till he passed. I want the community to remember him and remember him in prayer. And I always tease him and our chairman, Dr. Richardson. They're about 3 or 4 years older than me, and I call them my elders, and like they call Hardy their elder. But we respect our elders. And one that's about around my age, and maybe a little around there, is Lloyd Williams. Lloyd is young and spurty like me. Stand up, Lloyd. Pat, the head of the Greater Chamber of Commerce. We getting ready for Harlem Week. Let me acknowledge also the presence of the former congressman from Florida, who's been a major supporter and a major asset to National Action Network, Congressman Kendrick Meek. Glad to have the congressman. As I said, we're in precarious times. You almost can't turn on the news without hearing about another victim of gun violence. This morning, it's almost because I have my television show and have to deal with some news and then my commentary. I monitor news every day. Y'all know I get up about 4 in the morning, work out at 5, then I'm about 6 o'clock, I'm reading every site and every newspaper. And because I don't want nobody to bring up nothing on my show that I don't know something about. I do radio every day, call in, and then TV Saturday and Sunday nights. So I would look inept. I'd embarrass y'all if somebody talked about the issue and I didn't know what they were talking about. So I get up this morning, man stabbed somebody on the subway over an argument, burying some mother that was slain. Just all kind of crazy violence. And in the middle of that, you've got to learn how to manage a city. I look at Eric Adams and our city council speaker, Adrian Adams. You got to try to manage a city that has the problem of police going over the line while people are doing violent things. And everybody wants your issue, their issue, to be the only issue. And all of them are saying things that need to be heard. Another person died at Rikers Island. Well, why are folk dying in jail? These are things that hit you in many ways, that even if you don't focus on it directly, the combination of it makes you unstable. And I thought about Kendrick Meek, why it has led to such instability, is that when those of us a little older were growing up, we did not have all of these channels on TV and didn't have all this social media. So a lot of stuff was happening, but we didn't know it. But now everything, everybody knows. If the news sites don't cover it, somebody get on their Facebook and cover it. And you sit up, one of the worst things in the world is become addicted to social media. Because you get into that and read that all day and it will drive you crazy. Half the stuff you're reading is not true. But it becomes part of your psyche because you have taken it in. Be real careful about what you read, because it's like eating. Whatever you eat is going to be part of your body. Whatever you intake mentally is going to be part of your mentality. That's why I tell folk every day, I get up and meditate first and pray first before I read anything. I try to get myself right and my spirit right with God, because if I wake up on your mess, it'll be a messy day. You got to set a tone to your day, because you got to be careful about it. In all of this, where are those that are supposed to represent something firm and solid? And I think that part of what has happened in a lot of our movements is that we have not been solid as to what we're about, but run around clout chasing. Richard Nordlinger taught me that term. Doing what is popular rather than doing what is profoundly necessary at that time. Where are we when you've got, in the last week, a boy shot at 90 times in Ohio, Akron, Ohio, shot at 90 times by police. They're now saying only 46 bullets hit him. Like that is excusable. And it's only over a traffic violation. Y'all run around debating, well, they said it was 60 and now it's 46. We talk about a traffic violation. And they get over him like a firing squad. And you arguing about who is going to lead the movement rather than who is going to change policing. You got a woman in Russia in jail because they said that they found some cartridges with some of the vapor from marijuana. She go to court yesterday. She pled guilty a week ago. Went to court yesterday and was able to present papers that her wife told Rachel and I about last Friday when we were in Chicago, where she had been given prescriptions to have cannabis to deal with her pain and aches from training and playing basketball. This was medicinal. Some of y'all was out there last week talking about why Revend Al talk about he want to go to Russia and help get her. She's smoking joints on in Russia. She had a medicinal prescription from her doctor. Now, a lot of y'all smoking joints ain't got no approval from nobody. But it's about to be legal, so that's all right. I just had to say that, Comerica. I don't want folk walking out House of Justice saying, Revend Al says, all right for me to smoke my joint. I didn't say that. I said she had a prescription for her pain. You ain't got no pain or prescription. But the other issue they ducking again, I'm on stability. The other issue that stable folk need to raise is even before we get to Brittany Griner and the prescription and the incarceration and how we get her out. The other issue is, why is she going to Russia to play ball? The reason she's going to play ball in Russia and has done it for 10 years is because they play women professional basketball players much less than they play men professional ball players. If she was a man with all the Olympic medals she won and the titles that she won, she wouldn't need to go to Russia. She would need the money right here. So not only do we need to get her home, we need to address the inequity based on gender in basketball. Now, yesterday in court in Moscow, tell you the irony of this now, nobody would bring up what was going on with Brittany Griner. Her wife got in touch with us through Rachel Norling and went on my radio show and started raising the profile. I played on Politics Nation. Then I said I wanted to go over there and still do with a group of ministers to at least give her a clergy visit. Then she wrote a letter to the president. The president had to respond. For 4 months, she was there. People forgot she was there. Keep an issue out there. Russian coach of the Russian team and 2 team members came into Russian court and testified on her behalf and talked about her character in Russia. And we gonna get Brittany Griner free, and we gonna deal with the inequity of women basketball. 2 things I promise once we get her out is we're going to deal with the inequity in women's basketball, and we're going to deal with that she is in a team owned by a man that has made some of the most racist and bigoted statements in our time. The owner of the team, Saba, needs to be stepped aside. I'm not going to drop our calling on Saba. to be disciplined by the NBA. They talking about they investigate. How many times you need to investigate? Somebody saying racist and misogynist thing. It ain't no long thing. Sava needs to be dealt with. I'm dealing with Brittany, but don't think I am not keeping focused on pay equity and racial insult. We are also, I think, missing a lot of points in what is going on in this whole battle around women's right to choose and what we are seeing in terms of these midterm elections. You got to be able to understand the broad picture to be able to understand our specifics. I get calls on the radio every day. There was a poll in the New York Times early this week that said that 64% of the Democrats they polled said that Joe Biden is too old to run for re-election. We want another candidate. 64%. But then you read the next page of the poll. They said, now, if Donald Trump runs again, who can beat him? And they give a list of everybody that is possible contender. And Congressman Meek, the only one that the poll, same poll, say could beat Trump is Joe Biden. So at one hand, he's too old. The other hand, he's the only one can beat Trump. And the other thing that they did not put in the poll is Trump ain't but 3 years younger than Biden. It ain't, in 2020, it was a battle of older men. Wasn't like Trump was a young guy and Biden was an older man. They 3 years apart. It's like if I had a match here on Thursday night, the next legal night, and had a battle between Methuselah and Hardy. That's the same thing. Now, the real battle this election, I want y'all to get this around the country watching on Impact Television. The real battle is not Biden or Trump. Trump said this week he already made up his mind, he gonna run, he'll announce whenever. Battle ain't Biden or Trump. Battle ain't even Fetterman or Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania over the Senate. Battle is not only Stacey Abrams or Kemp in Georgia. The battle is that we are on the precipice of the second civil war in this country. This is where we are. If you study U.S. history, the battle from the beginning of the country, when they met in Philadelphia and formed the country in 1776 and formalized it by the Declaration of, by the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Don't forget now, 1776, we had already been here since 1619. We were enslaved before they were incorporated. But the battle was whether they would have strong national government or they would be run by state powers. There's always been the battle. The battle in the Civil War, I want you to watch this now, is that the states were saying, we don't care what the national government said, the state cannot tell us we cannot own our slaves. The states were separated by name between the slave states and the free states. Is that not right, Lloyd Williams? And the slave states formed what they called the Confederacy. And the fight was the Confederates against the Union. The Confederates elected their own president, Jefferson Davis, and had their own structure they set up. One of those that helped to set the tone for that was the Supreme Court. Man appointed a judge named Taney to the Supreme Court. Taney was the one that made the decision that the blacks had no rights that a white was bound to respect. The man that appointed Taney to the Supreme Court was Andrew Jackson. Y'all still with me? Fast forward, come to now. When Donald Trump was elected in 2016, the first thing he did is hang a picture of Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office. Then it was saying, is he going to take Dr. King's picture, Dr. King's bust rather, out of the Oval Office? And we went for the okey doke. He kept King's bust on the dresser or whatever the object he put it on. But he put Andrew Jackson's picture over there, which showed a commitment to the states' rights and Confederate. What kind of signal are you sending to put a president that was an outright racist, that led the country through the trial of tears for the Native American? That's the picture you're going to put up in the Oval Office, which means if we were paying attention, we should have known then what was coming. Now, some of us knew, because in New York, we knew what he did with Central Park and other things, but he told the world that he was his hero. His role model was not one that fought for human rights and civil rights. It was Andrew Jackson. And they went about building, again, a states' rights Confederate movement. That is what they've been dealing with, stacking the Supreme Court. While we were running around reading Trump's tweets in the middle of the night, he's sitting up on the toilet tweeting garbage. And we talking about, oh, this man crazy. He wasn't crazy. He stacked that Supreme Court and put Barrett on the court and Kavanaugh on the court, Gorsuch on the court. And now we come around, even after he's out of office, the court comes with a decision that y'all don't understand. Y'all run around talking about they just ruled against Roe versus Wade. Yes, they did. But what was the ruling? The ruling was that we'll let the states decide. Case was, Mississippi said you can't get an abortion after 16 weeks. Supreme Court said we will not interfere, let the states decide. Which brings you right back to states' rights. Now that you made it up to the states to decide on women's right to choose, next is going to be the states will decide who and how you can vote. And then states will decide on immigration. And then states will decide on criminal justice, on bail. You're going back into a Confederate model. That's why in the 60s that we romanticized. The civil rights movement fought for the federal government to protect us against states. Civil Rights Act of 64 meant that the federal government said no state can discriminate in public accommodations. Voting Rights Act of 65 said no state can play games that would impede upon people's right to vote. And in fact, you didn't have a history of doing that. You must clear your voting regulations with the federal government. Open Housing Act, 68, No state can allow banks and others to discriminate with housing. This is not about whether you agree with abortion. This is about states' rights. And the election must be about those that will fight against states' rights and those that stand with the union. If you frame it that way, then you will understand why we need everybody in that battle. Because it's not about you and your block. It's about everybody saving us from the rise of the Confederates. Run you back about 4 minutes ago, I told you, Confederate States said Jefferson Davis was their president. Today you got folk running around saying Donald Trump is a legitimate president, Biden is illegitimate. Same thing. Same thing. They got their own president. They count the votes. Biden got millions of more votes. They were calling the secretaries of state. That's what January 6th Select Committee coming out with. Secretaries of states, Georgia, and everywhere else, saying we need these votes. Why? Because the Confederates have their own president. And that's what we got to fight. That's why I said, people talk about, well, Revend Al, y'all making coalitions. Yes, we need the women, we need the LGBTQ, we need immigrants, we need Latinos, we need Asian, we need everybody to join the Union Army. We can have our separate silo meetings when we need, but at some point, you gotta understand this is a war on the direction of this country. And if they get away with it now, it'll be past my grandson's generation before you get it back on track. Thought about this the other day, Sister Katrina. When I was a little boy, I was raised in Brooklyn, New York. My mother come from Dothan, Alabama. She used to talk about when I started watching stuff at 10, 11 years old. And she used to talk about there was a time that they would drive north and know where they could stop based on what state they were in, whether they could use the bathroom or not. So, we done crossed the North Carolina line, we can use the toilet here. Oh, we done got across the Mason-Dixie line, we can find a motel to stay. They had to travel based on segregated maps because of Jim Crow. Now you are in a country that's gone from Jim Crow to Jane Crow. You gotta wonder what state you can get an abortion. 10-year-old child raped in Ohio, and they gotta bring her to Indiana. 10-year-old child. And rather than them dealing with the rape, they want to know what doctor gave her the abortion. Something sick about that. You more mad with the doctor than the rapist. Because you become so stringent and committed to this that they have jacked you up on. Nothing else. Now, Trump has got everybody all keyed up on a states' rights model that they don't even understand what they fight. Rev, I go by the Bible. Well, the Bible, what part of the Bible you gonna quote? God called me the other day. Rev, I believe when there's a heartbeat, it's a birth. Well, people debate that, and we can debate that, but let's debate that on a national level, not state by state. Because I can debate the other side. I read the Bible where it said God took earth and made man and breathed in his nostrils, and he became a living creature. So you ain't living till you breathe? I mean, I can say that. Valley of dry bones. They was dead till they breathed in them. Yes, so I mean, where you gonna start this at? Somebody walked in here now and shot somebody, and the EMS came. First thing they're going to say is they still breathing. They ain't going to say, is he a fetus?
Yeah. Yes, my man. All right, here.
Where you going to start life? Or are you going to let the Confederates tell you where to start? Don't let people trick you. Don't let people that never quote the Bible about love your neighbor, that never quote the Bible about feed the hungry, that never quote the Bible about visit those in jail, that never quote the Bible about that neither bond nor Greek. But they quote the Bible about a birth on selective scriptures. Stop this selective quoting of the Bible. Read the whole Bible and leave the Bible alone. Well, I don't know, Revend Al, you into politics and civil rights. I'm in the Word. No, I'm in the Word. Read the Word. Not your selected favorite scriptures. Read the Word. The second book of the Bible, Kareem Kamara, is the story of the exodus of slaves. Exodus is a civil rights movement. So how you gonna jump over Exodus to get your shout on? That's why we've raised a generation of preachers that don't want to talk the doctrine of the Bible. They want to give you the sugar cotton candy part. Oh, you gonna be all right. Touch 3 neighbors and say I'm gonna be all right. Can somebody give me a witness? Touch 5 people and say it's coming this week. And you and the 5 people ain't getting nothing this week unless we change what's going on. Anybody in here witness, say something. Well, if you say something, we'll answer you. End of the sermon, the congregation will work harder than the preacher. They done slapped and exercised, so you tired and the preacher tired. Preach the word. The whole Bible started with God making man, man oppressing and enslaving man, exodus of the slaves, the establishing of the people of God's kingdom, and the restoring of that all the way through to Jesus coming to restore what the code of ethics was supposed to be. That's the Bible. Just like you that don't believe in women leading, well, you got to edit Esther and Ruth out of your Bible. I mean, these editors of the Bible deciding you going to decide how and what God doing rather than let God have his way. And that's why every generation that's in the scriptures were connected to the generations before it and extolled that. That's why every prophet said, in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, connected to the history and connected to the struggle. But you want to be disconnected. You want to be the new thing. You run to whatever is clout at the time, rather than standing on something. And one of the reasons why is you do not want the discipline of having to follow what God would want done. See, one of the things that you got to be careful, I'm going to let you go. And Kamara touched on this in his inspiration, is sometimes you got to step out on faith and do what God tells you, even if it is not what you think is popular. Sometimes you face a hard decision, a dilemma, even in your personal life. I'm talking to somebody that you feel inside what is right, but you're pulling what is acceptable and popular. But everybody in history that made a difference had to do what was not acceptable to change the order to do what was right. If you were in Montgomery, Alabama in 1995, when Rosa Parks would not give up her seat on the bus, you will have known that there were 3 other blacks sitting on the bus that day. She wasn't the only black on that bus, but the others was in the back. And they were mumbling and grumbling about, why don't she get on back here? She gonna start some trouble. What's wrong with her? Back of the bus going where the front is going. In fact, if we get in an accident, we're in the back, the front will get tore up. Ha ha ha. Justifying slavery. When they fought, went across Edmund Pettus Bridge, it got beat down about voting. What y'all want to vote for? Voting ain't gonna do nothing. White folk gonna run everything. You got to be willing to stand up and do what God wants done, even when those around you gonna act like it don't make sense. I'm talking to somebody today, you need to stop chasing what is popular and do what you're supposed to do, and God will exalt you for your obedience. Moses, who led the liberation struggle, didn't make the promised land. You know why he didn't make it? One thing he did wrong. They were dealing with drought, and they had, at one juncture, God told them strike the rock, and he struck the right rock, and water came. But then they got on down, you get further down in Exodus. And God, I'm gonna leave you this, God told them, speak to the rock. Don't strike the rock. Speak to the rock. And Moses, looking at the crowd, knowing what they wanted to see some action, he wanted to please the crowd. He struck the rock rather than speak to the rock. Struck it twice and the water came, and he disobeyed God's order. And for that, he never got to see the promised land he fought for. I'm telling you that you have got to stop playing to the crowd, playing to those that will approve what you're doing, and learn to have enough faith in God to speak to the rock. I don't know why you getting up on Saturday mornings, going up there with Sharpton and all of them, all talking. Speak to the rock. I don't know why you marching. Marching ain't gonna give us nothing. Speak to the rock. I don't know why you think we can change these laws. These people gonna have it their way. Speak to the rock. Stop waiting on folk to accept you. I don't know why God told me to do it, but I'm gonna do it anyhow. I sat there about 4 or 5 weeks ago, watched this documentary they got coming out on me. That Kendrick was there, Hardy and a few. And they had played stuff out of the 80s all the way to now, that stuff I had not seen. And I thought about how when we started, we were the outliers. We were all kind of names. They played some of what they called me on television, everything but a child of God, including some black folks. But for some reason, maybe because I grew up in the bosom of the black church, I had enough faith that if I kept fighting and do what God would make my enemies my footstool. And now, in the same circles that they castigated us. They now are saying that we represented something that now should have been dealt with long time ago. And that night, John Legend and Spike Lee and all of them introducing this documentary on me. Where did you get this strategy? I did not get a strategy. I just spoke to the rock. I don't know what they taught you in these Ivy League schools, but I know God told me just say no justice, no peace. And where my people are hurting, just show up, speak to the rock, and keep speaking to the rock. And I come to tell you today to stand up with faith and speak to the rock. It may not be popular, but speak to the rock. It may not build your clout, but speak to the rock. It may make folk look at you strange, but speak to the rock. It may be the outcast, but speak to the rock. If you stand up, God will hold you up. On every leaning side, my faith is built on nothing less but Jesus' blood and righteousness. The rock is Jesus. I don't know why he chose me to do my part, but I know he chose me. And he told me if I stand up, he'd hold me up on every leaning side. On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All of the ground. All of the ground. They may have got nice homes, but all of the ground. They may look like they're wealthy, but all of the ground is sinking sand. On Christ, that solid rock. I speak to the rock. I speak to the rock. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest rain, but only lean on Jesus' name. On Christ, the solid rock, I stand. The ground is sinking sand. On Christ, the solid rock, I stand. The ground is sinking sand. Is sinking sand. Yeah, is sinking sand. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. Everybody's singing. Everybody sing. Everybody's singing. We're going to open the doors of the movement. There may be someone here today, someone in the auditorium that never joined National Action Network. You see us on television with various activities. You hear us on the radio, but you never joined National Action Network. If you're here today and want to put your name on the roll and be involved in the work, all you have to do is come down to me and we'll sign you up this morning and make you a full-fledged member of National Action Network. Just come on to me right now and become a member of this organization. You that are listening by radio or watching on TV, you can call 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651, and join right on there. Come on, sister. Come on, there's somebody else need to join with her. Everybody's singing. Everybody sing. Everybody singing. Come on. Everybody singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. We want justice. We want freedom. Everybody singing. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. Yeah. All right. We're going to raise our offering. I want everybody to give the best of your ability. Need everybody to give to the best of your ability. It's about 2 minutes to 11. I promise on the air, let y'all about 11. Raise our offering, taking our member, and let you go. Glad again to see Lloyd Williams, Chair of Upteam, Harlem Chamber of Commerce. One of our young people, I remember I was saying to them that somebody was telling me they had this, about a year ago, this, on one of the live, Godfather Harlem. A young person, Huddle, said to me, oh, they doing a documentary on Lloyd Williams? I said, no, not that Godfather. And we're always glad when he is with us. All right, let us take our offering. Y'all get up and help Hardy walk down, come across. I pick on Hardy, but Hardy's really about 6 months younger than me. But I pick on him because I got the microphone. And when we in court, he do all the talking and I got to shut up. We even it out. I need everybody to give to the best of your ability. I need everybody to give to the best of your ability. I need about 10 people, about 10, and give $100 or more to come quickly. Guardians, $100. You recall that I mentioned the incarceration of Brittany Griner, superstar WNBA player. And I was concerned and have become even more concerned about she has not been released and brought back to the United States. Let's set aside that I have real suspicions about the reason she was arrested in the first place. What I really am concerned is that the United States government and the White House and the State Department do all within their power, despite what's going on in Ukraine, to let the Russian government know that we as American citizens want to see Brittany home. I'm honored to have her wife, who has since her incarceration been making moral appeals and her, and she has agreed to come on the radio show and talk with us about this. Sherelle Griner, thank you for being with us today. First of all, how are you holding up through this, and what can you tell us if you know how Brittany's holding up?
Thank you for having me today, and I'm doing okay. And I wish I could say, I was better. I obviously have so much to be blessed about, but, until my wife is home, there's a piece of me that is missing.